friends, welcome back to another video if you have seen our videos before, and if you are new, welcome. My name is Hope and I have a very long-awaited video for you today. This is my 1-year update, post-surgery update, and I have been meaning to film another update video for you guys for a few months now, and I have gotten so many amazing messages from you guys on DMs, on Instagram, and here on YouTube, asking for an update, asking how I'm doing, how my journey is going, and I really wanted to make those videos for you, but I have just, life has hit me pretty hard, and I have been really struggling to put my thoughts together enough to sit down and make an update video. So I guess this is part apology in the fact that I'm sorry. I really did intend to make videos, you know, from 6 months on, but it just kind of, life got in the way and I didn't. And so I'm here today to give you guys an update. I'm gonna try to quickly recap months 4 through 10 and just give you like little bullet points of those, and then I will give you an update on how I'm doing today. So the day that this video is going up is Thursday, August 11th, and this is today my 1-year surgery anniversary. So August 11th, 2021, I had my right temporal craniotomy, and I cannot believe it has been a whole year. Like, I honestly feel so grateful for sitting here and making this video, because there were times last year where I didn't know that I would be here to make this video for you guys. So I just feel really overwhelmed at the fact that I'm here to make this video and that I feel well enough to sit here and make this video for you. It's very exciting. So first thing I want to say is, how are you guys? I know I haven't been able to talk to you guys about medical things for months, and so many of you reached out to me with the prior videos from my surgery, telling me about you guys, about your lives, what you've been through, and I really just want an update from you guys. So how have you been doing? Actually, if you feel inclined to share, please leave it in a comment down below. I would love to go through the comments and chat with you guys. And yeah, I have been keeping you guys in my prayers, as you guys have been keeping me in yours, and I'm so very thankful for that. So yeah, I just want an update on you. How are you doing? How are things going a year later from the initial video? If you are just now coming in on my story, I have made an entire playlist of, I believe it's called My Road to Recovery, and I will link that playlist up here. Everything from my pre-surgery to what I took to the hospital to my 1-month recovery and my surgery story. So lots of videos to check out. But if you are curious as to what my life was like before the surgery, I will link specifically the I Need Brain Surgery video, which was when I announced it to you guys that I was going to be having brain surgery, and in that video I explained a lot about my symptoms, how my normal week was looking, and what I was hoping to accomplish with the surgery. So I will link that video as well as the whole playlist down below. I do recommend you start there and then come back to this video, because that kind of sheds a lot of light on that part of my story. So I believe the last video that I made that was related to the surgery was my 2 or 3 month recovery update. It was back in November or December of last year, so it's been a hot minute since I have updated you guys. So I went back through my notes, and I have some brief notes on months 4 through 10 to share with you guys. So I'm gonna kind of go through and share those, and then we'll end the video with me talking about where I am today in filming this video. So back to month 4, so that would have been December of last year. I definitely was starting to be able to accomplish more things and do more things, especially with my energy level. We did Vlogmas last year in December, and that was a huge victory for me, to be able to take on a workload of that magnitude. Of course, Abby did most of it with the editing and everything. It was really just the filming 24 videos for you guys that I was very proud of. But I actually started back to work in month 4. It was towards the end of month 4, and I was on a very, very, very part-time schedule. So I did go back to work, but it was very abbreviated. I was not doing a lot of my normal tasks because stamina-wise and energy-wise, I just did not have it. But I'm really grateful that I was able to start working and just kind of like inching along in learning to do more normal life things again. I'm very grateful that I was able to start back to work in month 4. From what my surgeon told me, it was very like best case scenario, textbook kind of progress that he was seeing from me. So I'm really, really grateful that I was able to go back to work, even if it was part-time, and that I was able to start learning those like normal life skills again, because coming back from being on basically bed rest and chair rest for months, it was really a challenge to even, you know, learn how to be in public again and talk with people and have conversations. Those were things that kind of stretched my mind in new ways that was very exciting for me. I was mostly focusing on my motor skills, physical signs of fatigue. So paying attention to when I would do an action, what would I feel like? If it was anything as small as taking a cup and filling it up with water in the fridge and then carrying it back to my chair, how did I feel after that? And then kind of escalating from there, doing things like picking things up and carrying them, because I think I mentioned in my 2-month, well, one of my surgery updates, I can't remember which one, that I wasn't allowed to lift anything for a long time after the surgery. I want to say it was like 8 to 12 weeks. I wasn't allowed to lift a single thing, not even pillows, like nothing. So to learn how to safely pick things up again and use the right muscles and engage my core and all of that kind of stuff after being, you know, a couch potato for weeks and weeks on end. So that was very exciting. I did still have slight positional pain and fog in my head. I would get head rush even in changing positions. So even from like sitting to standing or laying to sitting, any of those kind of changes in position, I would get a huge rush in my head. I would feel this like pulsating sound inside my ears. I think it was my heart rate, I'm not exactly sure, but it really did sound like my heart inside my ears, which was really, really scary. And that actually lasted for a while. So I learned if I knew I needed to stand up, it was getting fully upright, waiting a minute, then kind of getting up really slowly, not just springing up, because it was very disorienting to do those quick positions and then get kind of dizzy or a head rush because of it. So I did get fatigued very, very quickly, and that was one of the biggest things that I noticed post-surgery that I don't want to say I wasn't expecting, but I've just never experienced it before. And things that I used to do no problem, you know, in my normal life, would just exhaust me. And I was like, I didn't do anything. Like, how am I so exhausted? And I think it did take my body some time to reset and readjust to any sort of activity level, even the smallest, you know, things. My first trip to the parks, I believe, was in month 4, if I'm counting correctly. It was the after hours Christmas event in Magic Kingdom. We have a whole vlog of that day. If you want, I will link it above if you want to check out my first time back to the Disney parks. But that was one of the most amazing memories I will cherish forever. It was a very hard night. I was in a wheelchair because of the fatigue I was just talking about. I couldn't walk for a whole lot of time without needing to sit down. I was still having some heart rate irregularity issues, so my heart rate would spike, even just in like sitting still. My heart rate would spike, and then it would race for a little while and then have to kind of calm back down. And so it anything just from walking from here to there would spike my heart rate, and then I'd have a hard time getting it back down. So it was definitely a learning curve, I guess, to be back in the parks for that event. But it was wonderful. It was so nice to have like that Christmas feeling again, to have a Christmas party, because in the midst of all of my, recovery stuff in my own personal life, the world was coming back from shutting down from the pandemic. So everybody was kind of learning all at one time, and Disney had brought some version of the Christmas party back in December or Christmas time of last year. And so I'm really grateful that I was able to be a part of that, and that we were able to vlog it. So now I will forever have the memory of my first time back into the Disney parks after my surgery. So that was something very, very special. But I was able to do it. I did it. I want to say we were there for maybe like 7 or 8 hours total before the event and then getting home. It was probably about 7 or 8 hours, and that was my first time being out anywhere for that length of time after my surgery. So I was very proud of myself, and really grateful to my family for putting up with me and like helping me along, because they had to obviously push me in a wheelchair and everything. So it was a lot on them, but I'm really grateful that they let me come along with them, even though they kind of had to like help me every step of the way. But it was very magical, and I'm very glad we did it. So month 5 as a whole was very good for me. It was slowly building, adding more things into my normal routine, things that I had done in my life that I had to put on pause because of the surgery, starting to add some of those in. Like I said, I was already back to work, but adding a little bit more to my plate, being there for longer lengths of time, that kind of thing. I started to struggle immensely with my sleep, which I can't remember if I mentioned that in my last video or not, but kind of mid-range of my recovery, I started struggling with sleep. And I think that there were a lot of factors in that, but I've heard from a lot of you guys that in a lot of different kinds of surgery, not just brain surgery, that sleep can be a struggle or a side effect of your procedures. And I did definitely notice that for me. It was a struggle to get to sleep initially, and then once I was asleep, to stay asleep. I would wake up between every 3 and 5 hours, pretty much on the dot. Every 4 hours I would wake up seemingly randomly and struggle to get back to sleep. And so I think it slowed my healing a little bit, because sleep is obviously crucial to recovery, but also to living life. And so only to get between 6 and 8 hours of sleep a night was really, really rough. So I did implement some sleep aids around this time as well. I had a melatonin supplement, and then also a magnesium supplement, and I don't have those up here with me right now, but I guess I'll go ahead and announce here in the video. I also plan to, in this month, this 1 year from my brain surgery, the month of August, I'm planning to do a brain surgery recovery essentials video, and I'm going to share all the tools and all of the items that I purchased from week 1 to month 12 of my surgery. Everything that I've used that's helped me in my recovery, I'm going to share every item with you, and I'm also going to share links to those items. So if you are going through something similar and you are curious what things helped me, I'm going to be sharing those in a video. So be on the lookout for that coming up in the next few weeks. So I will show exactly which brand and which type of supplement those were in that video, but I remember specifically I had one night around month 5 that was so like rock bottom to me. I want to say I slept 3 hours and a few minutes that whole night, and I was wired. Something about the neural pathways in my brain connecting to my body, it was awful. I had what felt like restless leg syndrome. Now obviously I was not diagnosed with this, so I don't have the exact restless leg syndrome, but from all the research I did of my symptoms, that's what it felt like. Just a sense of like needing to move my legs specifically, but I also had it in my arms. things like tingling and fire and discomfort. Sometimes it would be itching or burning, like I said, and it would just kind of dance throughout my legs, and it usually only happened in the evening or night. This happened for months actually, but for this one night that I hit rock bottom, I tried everything. I tried sleeping in the chair, I tried sleeping in the bed, I tried getting up and moving, and I tried, all these things, and I was like, that's it. Like that morning, I was like, this is enough, like enough is enough, I cannot sleep, and I went out that day to the grocery store, and we picked out my family and I picked out some sleep supplements for me to just start trying because it was rough. And ever since then, I have kind of niched down and found exact brands of supplements that I really like and that work the best for me. But sleep aids as a whole, tea, vitamins, supplements, minerals, all the kind of things to help sleep, I have found immense success with those in a few months' time, but it was not an easy process of figuring out what works and what doesn't. But yeah, that night changed everything for me because it started, like, that was the beginning of my sleep struggles. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm still dealing with sleep struggles, so that's one of my longest running symptoms, or struggles, I guess, that I'm facing, but we'll get there. So that started around month 5. I began seeing my chiropractor again in month 5, which was very, very exciting because my body as a whole had obviously been through trauma with being through the surgery and the recovery and everything. And before my surgery and before my migraines got really bad, I was a very active person, and so my body is not used to, or was not used to, resting for long periods of time or sitting still in a chair for like 24 hours in a day. Like that's just not my norm. And so after the surgery, the rest of my body was actually really struggling with the sedentariness of the recovery. So my muscles were like cramping up and getting super tight. I got super weak, and a lot of my muscles were kind of atrophy because of disuse, and everything was just kind of out of alignment, out of whack. And so around month 5, I got the okay from my neurosurgeon to start seeing a chiropractor again. I had been using chiropractic care for maybe like a year or a year and a half before my surgery, so I was very comfortable with the chiropractor that I have. But we had to kind of change what adjustments looked like because I was still unable to be be horizontal at this point. I was not able to lay flat at all for the safety of the surgical area and the blood patch and all of that. We needed to really balance the pressure in my head and stay upright. So even when I would lay down in the bed, I was still on a prop of 4 or 5 pillows for my head to be more upright. So normally, if you've ever been to a chiropractic adjustment, you lay flat on the table and then they do like a laying adjustment of all of your joints and everything like that. And so we kind of had to get creative with how to do the adjustments, but also keep my head safe and be up and vertical. So I actually started doing seated adjustments, which are very strange if you've ever had them. They're adjusting the same things, but you're sitting upright. So everything feels a little bit different, but I started noticing so much improvement in my dexterity in the rest of my body, and also how I felt. My shoulders didn't hurt so bad, my back didn't hurt so bad after starting to getting adjusted again. But we had to start very, very, very gentle, obviously, and then kind of worked from there. That happened in month 5. I did finally move back upstairs. So if you have watched any of my other surgery related videos, I had to move downstairs for the recovery from my surgery because I was not allowed to do stairs for quite a while. And then when I was able to do them, I had to kind of do a little physical therapy type routine with trying 1 stair at a time, 2 stairs at a time, 3 stairs at a time, and then building my way up to actually be able to make it upstairs. So I basically moved from my living space, my bedroom, which was upstairs, downstairs for the period of my surgery. And so I had a whole like makeshift closet downstairs, my bed was downstairs, like everything was downstairs. And so I was living in essentially our family's living space. We have like a little nook downstairs that I had my bed set up in, and it did help in the initial part of recovery for my family because they were they were able to get to me easily. I had round the clock, you know, assistance and care with my family members. God bless them, they are amazing. And then also I was near the bathroom, near the kitchen, so I was able to be assisted and I was able to get to things a lot easier than obviously being upstairs. But all that being said, I missed being upstairs. I missed having my own private room where I could, you know, shut the door and live in peace, I guess. And also just, I miss being somewhat normal and being in my normal space. So at the end of month 5, I moved my bed back upstairs and I was able to sleep in my bed upstairs again. So even when I moved downstairs, it was just the mattress. It wasn't the full bed frame that was moved. So to be back into my bed frame again, amazing, so great, loved it. And it was a huge milestone that I felt like I hit, to be able to not only live upstairs, but to climb the stairs, the literal mountain, to get to my living space was amazing. So we have stairs, but we also have, it's a 2-flight stairs. So you go up one, there's a landing, and then you go up another one. And so it took me quite a few weeks of practicing the stairs to be able to actually make it upstairs. And then the physical therapist who assisted me from the hospital, when she was kind of telling me how things were going to go and how to start doing things again, she told me to do it in slow chunks and then to pay attention to what my head felt like afterwards, because something about getting the blood like pumping through your body when you go up a flight of stairs, it definitely did some weird pressure things to my head. I just remember feeling like a little bit dizzy, like whooshing. It was just a very strange feeling, and it was a little bit unsettling. Like I would kind of not know where I was. So I definitely had to go slow and use the handrail, and I had support of my mom or my sister on this side, like to help me get up the stairs. And then I finally was able to get to the point where I could go up one flight of stairs, give it a few minutes, and then go up the next flight of stairs, and that was a huge victory. I did still have head tension and dull pain in my inner ear area that came and went. It wasn't constant, and I'm not sure if any of you guys have had a craniotomy before. Let me know if you've also experienced anything like this, but it was almost like a dull like ache. It kind of felt like a really, really intense ear infection. If you've ever had an ear infection, it was inside my ear, like really aching, kind of throbbing pain. But I do believe that it was nerve related because it would come and go, and then it would also switch sides. So some days it would be in my right ear, some days it would be in my left ear, and it would be really intense and painful, like an ear infection, for a few minutes, and then it would go away. And so we did wonder if it actually was an ear infection, but because of how wishy-washy it was and switching sides and things, we decided it was not an ear infection. It was just nerve pain, but it was really, really intense. So it was very uncomfortable, and I would also get like a pulsating kind of heartbeat sound inside my ear, and that would come and go as well. In month 5, I wrote down that my jaw finally began to open wide again. I think I showed in those recovery videos how I really could only move my jaw like this much, and so my talking was messed up, like my speech pattern was messed up because of that. I obviously had trouble eating things. I couldn't even get a full spoon's worth in my mouth. So around month 5, I started like doing just practicing opening wider and wider, and naturally it started to release. That was one thing that my surgeon had told me before the surgery, was that I was going to lose the mobility and the strength in my jaw because they're cutting through all the muscles up here that control that. So he told me, you are probably going to miss, you know, your jaw is going to be a problem for a while. I think he told me like 8 to 10 weeks, when it would be just locked, you know, really, really tiny, and then it'll just start to open up. And it did. It started to open up naturally on its own. And then as it started to open wider, I would just work on, you know, getting my speech back correctly, being able to open wider. And I was able to eat more and more things as that process went along. I was able to just kind of fit more and more in my mouth, because not more and more food, but bigger food, I guess. Like for instance, I couldn't even fit a spoonful of mashed potatoes into my mouth because the width wasn't wide enough for that. So then once I was able to do that, I could then eat chunkier things, and I could eat like a full hamburger, and like, you get what I'm trying to say, like a full sandwich. I could start eating more and more because of that, and my appetite also increased more and more with that as well. I really didn't have much of an appetite at all for the first few weeks and even months of my recovery. I think between the painkillers that I was on for the initial recovery, and then mixed with the pain everywhere in my body, I just did not feel like eating. And then my jaw being, you know, only open this wide, it was really not fun to try to fit things in there. So as my jaw started to loosen up, I was able to get my normal appetite back, which was very exciting too. I still can't open my jaw fully. Even now, a year later, I don't have my full dexterity, but I'm definitely able to open it wider, and there's nothing that I've tried so far that I cannot eat, which is fantastic. I'll just give you an example of how wide I can open my jaw. Yeah, okay, you get the idea. It's pretty exciting. Okay, anyway, back to the notes. So month 6, I finally was able to go upstairs. Like I said, I had been sleeping upstairs for a few weeks, so we were able to move everything else up from downstairs, my clothes and my bedside, everything, you know, all the things, just moved it all up, which was great. I was able to increase my work schedule again slightly, the length of my shifts and all that kind of stuff I was able to extend. I began strengthening and stretching exercises to get the rest of my body feeling as good as it could. So like I said, month 5, I started doing the chiropractor. That helped a lot. And then also being able to start lifting things, and lifting them for the purpose of gaining strength, not just lifting them because I wanted a sip of water. Does that make sense? So I started, you know, working on strengthening my arms again. It is amazing to me how long it takes to build muscle and how quickly you can lose muscle. Between like the first few months of my recovery, my arms and my core got so weak just from not doing the normal life things, not lifting things, not dancing, not exercising. My arms, like, it was a struggle to even lift like the smallest of things. My arms would be so tired. And even I remember like getting back into filming videos when we were vlogging again. I would have Abby vlog things because it was too much like to hold the camera up to vlog because my arm was so weak. So starting to work on actually building the rest of the muscles in my body to get them strong enough to support me doing more actions, if that makes sense. So I started doing that again. I started doing some dancing on a very, very small scale, mostly just ballet bar work, again, to work on engaging the muscles in my body and my core and my back, my arms, just kind of getting them to a healthy place again. I still was not able to bend over fully. I needed to stay upright to make sure that everything was able to balance itself correctly. So I was definitely doing ballet and stuff with caution, and even normal life things like picking things up or cooking or whatever, just doing it with caution and thinking about a move before I would do it. So like if I was in the kitchen and I dropped, like let's say a fork, I couldn't just fling down, grab the fork, and stand back up. It was a thought of, okay, I need to take a minute, I need to kind of do like a squat to go get the fork, not bend my head down to get the fork. So those kind of things, just thinking before I acted was huge, and remembering that I was still recovering, because around this point I was actually feeling really great. And so sometimes with feeling great, you forget that you're not 100% better, and so then you can actually cause yourself more harm by acting normal and doing things too quickly, and then realizing, whoa, we're not normal yet. We need to like think this through before we act. So that was definitely a lot of month 6, was learning, like, just because you feel better doesn't mean that you can do everything as quick and as normal as you would. So learning to pace myself. And then I did have more different nerve pain. Basically, the running theme of this entire video is that I had weird nerve pain every single month, but it would change what it was, where it was, and what it felt like. So what I wrote down for month 6 was that I had it in the right side of my head and under my jaw. So this again was something that was new. Sometimes it would be burning, sometimes it would feel like tingling, and this pain I actually do still have. It's something that I'm still dealing with, but I believe it's a nerve pain that will start underneath the right side of my jaw. Sometimes it'll start somewhere in here, and then it feels awful. It feels like almost if you've ever had like a really bad tooth pain, like a cavity or something that causes like a whole aching in your jaw, or if you've had your wisdom teeth removed, kind of feels something like that. But it'll just be very pinpointed. It's not the whole thing. And then it'll kind of spread all the way up underneath my jaw, and then it'll kind of like radiate up into my ear and up to where my scar is. But it starts down here. It usually doesn't start up here. And sometimes it feels different. Sometimes it's just like an aching pain. Sometimes it's burning. Sometimes the one I have currently actually is it feels very hot, like acid. And it feels like if someone's pouring like a pitcher of acid and it's like pouring down. It feels like that, but it's inside my head, like underneath my skin, if that makes sense. So it'll feel just like a pouring pain, or sometimes it'll go up, but it's awful. It's like a burning, singeing pain, but it goes in waves. So that one I'm still dealing with, so it's really fun stuff. But it'll come and go. Sometimes it'll be in the middle of the night, sometimes it'll be in the day, just kind of depends. And then my last chunk to update you is between months 7 and 10. So this one I stopped taking daily notes, so it's just a chunk of period of time because I don't know exactly when in the time frame it fell, but I still feel like it's important to bring it up. So through, as I got later in the recovery, like months 8 and 9, I started feeling the most like myself that I have felt in a long time. And I'm not even talking like, surgery or even before the surgery, but if you guys have watched my other surgery videos, you know that I've been dealing with these migraines and this head pain for about 2 years. My pain started increasing little by little over about a 1.5 year time span before we actually looked into what was wrong and actually having the surgery. So when I say that I'm feeling more like myself, there's some things that I have not felt or didn't even think that I lost that have come back to me. So just amounts of energy. Sometimes I can think very clearly and very crisp. I can think quickly to be able to respond. Like I remember the first time when I was having a conversation with my family and someone said something, I don't even remember what it was, and I was able to do a quick wit response, like a humor line to interject in the conversation, and everyone stopped and like looked at me and then started laughing because nobody could remember the last time that I could think fast enough to come back with a witty response and then interject it into the conversation before the conversation moved on. And it was just like, oh, I'm actually funny. Now, granted, I'm the least funny, I think, in my entire family. Like, Everybody's, their levels of funny, and then I'm like down here, but I'm actually funnier than I thought I was. And I, again, hadn't felt that in so long that it was really nice to see it coming back. And just even being able, like, I remember trying to do that before, but I didn't realize as a whole how much brain fog had like come over me in that period of a year and a half. It just happened so slowly that I wasn't aware of it. But even on days when I wasn't in pain and I was feeling my best, my thoughts were still delayed and I was still very foggy inside my head. And so I wasn't able to come up with a quick thought and be able to say it in a time-sensitive way, if that makes sense. Like, by the time I would come up with a witty line to respond, the conversation had moved on to where it was no longer relevant. And that kind of thing happened to me slowly more and more over time. And I just kind of stopped trying to like come up with funny things to say because there was no point to it. And that was just one example of a few different things that I had realized that I had kind of lost throughout the last 2 years. So I'm very, very excited to be feeling more like hope again, like more like myself. I will say I started having more good days than bad days. I had a lot of energy, comparatively speaking, and a lot of enthusiasm for doing things. So even if it was something little, like I would get to go on a car ride that day and we would run one errand. Like, I remember the first time I was able to go into the grocery store and make it through like a grocery shop without having too much fatigue to where I couldn't continue. That was such a huge day. And I remember like getting to go like run a quick errand, like go to the post office and drop off some packages and then come back and have enough energy to do that. And those kind of things, I started getting very excited about doing those things because it was like a huge improvement over where I had been. So those kind of things were very exciting. I did have a different kind of pain and tension, and it started kind of being more in front of my head, whereas the migraines a lot of times started in the back. They would start like in the back of my skull and my neck and kind of creep up from the back forward. Now when I have pain, it's a little bit different. So that is all of my notes of months 4 through 10, I guess. And so now I'm just gonna take the remainder of this video to talk about how I'm doing now. So a full year from my surgery date, how am I doing? First of all, the thing I want to say is I am doing really good. Overall, I'm doing really, really good. I definitely still have bad days, and I have more bad days than I would like to admit. I kind of hoped that once I went through the surgery, I would no longer have any headaches or I would no longer have any bad days, and that's just not the case. That's not reality. I will say though, I'm very grateful for where I am at because it's very different than the pain and the episodes that I had before the surgery. So again, I'm gonna mention that same video, the I Need Brain Surgery announcement video. I talked about what a day was like or what an episode was like before the surgery. So if you want like the ins and outs and details of that, watch that video. But now when I do have bad days or I have episodes, they're very different than before. So before I had a lot of like neurological type issues. I would get all these other weird symptoms like nausea and rapid heart rate and tingling and weakness. You know, I got a lot of other things. And now when I get headaches, they seem to be a different kind of headache. They affect me differently, and they actually don't affect me as severely as before. So kind of my biggest or easiest example I can tell you is now when I have head pain, obviously it's not comfortable and it does still hurt, but I can function through it. I can talk through my episode. I can think, I can still create thoughts. They are still delayed and they're still foggy, but I can actually create a thought and have a conversation with someone while I'm having the head pain. Whereas before the surgery, I was basically incapacitated. I could not think, I could not talk. I would have to just lay in a dark room for hours and hours and wait for it to pass before I could actually function. So I'm very grateful that it's different. It's just completely different now. And it seems to me that the kind of headache that I have is also caused by something different. I get a lot of like tension headaches now, and it just feels like pressure kind of building inside my head. But a lot of times the pain is more in the front of my head. It's in my face, in my temples, in either one side or the other of my head. It's not so much the coming from the back in my neck kind of radiating into my head. I do still have those occasionally, but not nearly to the amount that I had them before. I will also say, I think when I refer to episode, like the episodes that I had before the surgery, it's the one that came with the headache and then the other 10 or 12 symptoms that came with it. I've only had those episodes, I think, twice since my surgery. So in 12 months, I've had 2 of those. Whereas in the months leading up to my surgery, I would have 2 to 3 of those a week. So if you just think about like the ratio of that, it's incredible. Like so much better, night and day difference in how frequently I'm having those. Now I will say the 2 times that I have had that, it was very scary to me because I have a little bit of like, I don't know if it's like PTSD or like just a little bit of freak out moment when I do have those, because I just, all the memories of like everything I've been through comes rushing back, and it's very scary. But I will say that I'm able to bounce back out of those much easier now, and I'm able to, I think my body is able to recuperate from those and recover quicker. So the like hangover period after the episode is not nearly as long as it was before. So again, something to be grateful for. As of right now, I'm pretty much back to my normal pre-surgery schedule. I've got everything. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I'm not doing now that I was doing before. I'm back to full work schedule, even more so I think than before. I am filming videos. I have been to the parks many times. I will say this summer has been kind of kicking my butt as far as my health goes, because this is the first summer that I have been in post-surgery, and so I'm learning new things every day about what affects me and what doesn't. And I have noticed that with my specific symptoms and what is going on inside my head, that heat affects it a lot more than, or heat has a negative effect and cold has a positive effect. So when I'm outside in the heat and it's, let's say 96 degrees, feels like 104, that's an accurate example of what it was yesterday. I can go out in the heat, like to film a video. Let's say I'm in the parks for a few hours. I can maintain and do okay while I'm out. I'm trying to make sure to stay up on my hydration. I come inside for breaks, like I do all that kind of stuff as any normal person should during summer in Florida. But what I've noticed is that the heat affects me internally, and it's quite severe. So even, for instance, like one day I was vlogging, like I said, 3-ish hours outside. I was able to make it through okay, but then in the car on the drive home, I started feeling symptoms. I started feeling pressure in my head. I started the decline. And by the time we got home, I was, really having a lot of pain inside my head, and it was in the beginning of like a headache attack. And it lasted for another 12 or 13 hours after that. So the rest of that day, that night, and then a little bit into the next morning, I was really struggling. And there's been 2 or 3 instances of that where I've spent time outside and been in the heat, and then that has happened to me. So I definitely know that the heat is affecting me. So I'm kind of trying to be smart about what I choose to do outside or in the heat in general, and is it worth it? I've been trying different things to like help with that backlash side of things, to ease that pain and to help it go away a little bit quicker. But I now know that that's just part of my life right now. And so learning to kind of adapt and figure out, okay, what do I need to be doing? What do I need to be avoiding? And just kind of living smarter, not harder, I guess. And so now I just know, okay, that's something that I really need to take into consideration before I go spend a lot of time in the heat. Now, I have noticed a little bit the cold kind of works the opposite. It really helps me. In the little bit of cooler months that we had when it was like 60 degrees or 70 degrees outside and there was a little bit of crisp in the air, I actually felt so much better and a little bit more alive when it was colder, because I think it has something to do with the swelling and the decreasing of swelling inside my body and inside my head. When it's hot, things expand and they swell, and so it causes higher pressure levels inside my cranium. My cranial pressure goes up, and then when it's cold, everything kind of shrivels and becomes smaller, and so I have less pressure inside my head. And obviously it's a challenge to fight the heat here in Florida, because it's just always hot, and we don't get cold weather maybe more than 2 weeks a year if we're lucky. So I think if I were in a colder climate, like somewhere up north where you guys get snow like all year round, or you have snow like so much of the time, I think I would maybe be a little bit more, my body would respond a little bit better with the current situation of what's going on inside of me. I don't know, this is all my speculation, but I will say it has knocked me on my back the last month. The month of July, our AC in our house actually broke, and I think we mentioned it in a few different videos that we had no AC. Well, okay, I take that back. To give a quick unrelated example, our upstairs AC conditioning broke. We have 2 units in our house, the downstairs and the upstairs. The upstairs broke, and so the upstairs would get really, really hot. It was in the 80s, sometimes in the 90s inside our house, which is ridiculous. And then sometimes, because that one was broke and the AC, or the temperature upstairs was so high and so hot, that it was causing our AC in the bottom part of our house to really struggle, because it was doing the weight of 2 units trying to cool the whole house. So we ended up, trying to turn that one up so that it would save the machine and not break that machine as well. And it ended up being a huge nightmare situation where we had 3 different AC techs from different companies come and look at it. They all said something different. It was trial and error of fixing things and it wouldn't work, and fixing things and it wouldn't work. And finally, on August, I think it was like August 3rd, we were able to find the problem. They had to basically rerun an entire AC line from our attic all the way out to a new unit. And so for all intents and purposes, we had an entire month of living in between 78 and 89, 90 degrees inside our house. And so for me, with everything that's going on inside of my head, it was a real struggle. I actually had a lot more headache episodes than I wanted, than I was having, because I think of the heat and just living in that kind of heat for a long period of time. It was not easy, but I'm really proud of my family, how we responded to it. We all worked together to come up with solutions to survive. And then I'm proud of my body for actually getting through that, and I didn't have as many episodes as I would have expected, so I'm very proud. I definitely think my body's working every single day to kind of find a balance of balancing the pressure inside my head, the nerve pain that's going on, rewiring those nerve pathways throughout my body. So yeah, that's been our last month, and that was crazy. I do, like I said, still have good days and bad days. The bad days, unfortunately, I still can't really see them coming, but I am learning how my body feels in the beginning, middle, and end of a headache episode. So I can kind of tell if I'm in that little bit of foggy, kind of sort of pressure pain inside my head. I can kind of tell, and I have been able to, a few different times, been able to stop a full episode from happening by learning what my body needs and what I can do to fix it. So again, I'll have some of those products and some of those things that I've learned in my Recovery Essentials video. I'll show the exact things that I'm using right now. I would say, like, if I could give an average, I probably have maybe 2 to 3 headache days a month. And again, like I said, they're not nearly to the extent as they were before. So yes, I'm still having them, but they're not incapacitating. I'm able to still kind of function through them. So it's a huge victory. I feel like it's a night and day difference to where I was, you know, July of 2021. So another thing that we've kind of noticed over the last probably months 9 to 12 is that I am still having headaches. They're just very different. I actually did have another MRI scan back in June, I think it was. I think it was the middle of June. So month, like 10 and a half months, I guess. I had a follow-up MRI scan with and without contrast to see how my head looks 10 and a half months after the surgery, to check up, make sure everything is looking good after the surgery, and to make sure that nothing else is going on, because like I said, I am still struggling with new symptoms now and different things than I was before. And so some of my doctors thought that maybe there's something else that we have not seen. So we went ahead and did that scan, and the results came back. The area from my surgery is actually looking really, really good. Everything looks to be healing the best way that it can. So one of the things, I guess, since my symptoms have been changing and my headache structure has been changing, I've kind of learned some new ways to deal with it, or some things that help a little bit more with it. And so, like I said, I'm going to put those in the Surgery Essentials video, and that'll just kind of be like a continuation of my recovery. I do also realize I'm at 1 year post surgery, but I'm still recovering. Like, things are still changing inside my body. I'm still learning. Things are still healing. So even though I'm at 12 months, you know, some things can take years to recover, especially in the neurosystem of the body. Like, it's a very complex system. I do not understand most of it, but I do know that there's little changes here and there that will continue to heal now moving forward. So one thing I have not talked about at all is how my hair is doing. It's actually doing great. I do want to show you guys my scar because I feel like it looks so different now than last time I showed you guys. I will say my hair has been doing great. It's been growing back so well, and my scar is actually very, very subtle now. So I have tried to find my scar and I actually cannot find it. I have the beginning part here and I have the end part here, so I'm just gonna show those to you guys. I think it's a good thing that like all my hairs have kind of blended together. I literally have looked for like a solid 5 minutes and cannot find the question mark shape. The tail part here that still does stick out, like that's the one part that's still visible, because this was like the anchor, I guess, for the incision, and the hairs that go in front of that are very thin and very fine, so you can still see that on a normal day. And this here is the tail part that went down in front of my ear, and this piece I'm actually really happy with how it's healed. Like, you from far away you can't even really see it at all. I don't even know if you guys can see it here, but there is, if I turn forward, so right here there, like the stitching comes down, and then there's a little bit of like a raised piece right here again, which is where the anchor was. But this piece in front of my ear, like, you can't even really tell that there was a seam there. So yeah, as far as healing goes, it's really good. Here's the baby hairs. This is actually my biggest, I don't want to say it's a struggle because it's a good thing, but these little baby hairs, they have a mind of their own and they do not like to be tamed. So when I try to style my hair, they're like, poof. So this is the surgical, like, this is the hair that's growing back from the area where they shaved it. So I would say it's maybe like, what, 3 inches, maybe even 4 inches length. So it's almost long enough to where I can cut all my hair to be the same length, and that will be very exciting. And then there's a few little longer pieces here. That's what's left of the hair that was kept by my surgeon in the middle of my incision. But yeah, that's how my hair growth is going. So when I put my hair down, like, you can't even really see it at all. Can't even really tell that the hair is different. So anyway, that's the update on how my head is. That's pretty much it for this update. I know that this was a really, really long video. I've had a lot to share with you guys. I hope that this has, given you maybe some answers to your questions about how I'm doing. I hope that this has enlightened you if you are going through something, if you're going through a surgery like similar to mine, or even just any sort of procedure. I know that it's nice to hear other people's stories, just so you can kind of, hear from real life experience what it was like. So that's one of the reasons, the big reasons why I make these videos, why I wanted to make this video, was if you're going through something similar, here's my experience. I hope that it's, helpful to hear about it. And for all of you guys who are part of our YouTube family here, I really, really appreciate you and all of your sweet words and your concern and your questions about how I'm doing. I hope that this video kind of filled you in on my life and how things are going. And like I said, I do have a few videos related to my surgery that I'm actually working on right now, so they should be up in the next few weeks. I'll have the surgery essentials video, and then I have a few other surgery related videos that I would like to make for you guys, so I'm working on those right now. Hopefully you'll have those soon. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on your notification bell so that when those surgery videos pop up, you will be notified about that as well. So that was it for this video. I really have enjoyed talking with you guys. Thank you all for listening to me go rambling on and on for like an hour about weird medical stuff, but I really appreciate every single one of you. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help the video get shared to more people, and maybe somebody who needs to see this video, maybe it'll reach to them, and I would love for that to happen. Be sure to hit the subscription button so you don't miss any future videos from us, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!